A multimillionaire disguised as a commoner to test his son. The incredible truth revealed. Charles Whitaker had everything: money, status, power. Yet, standing under the sweltering summer sun in the small Midwest town of Maplewood, he found himself wearing a plaid shirt, old jeans, and a cap that hid his neatly combed hair. He was now Charlie, a humble handyman. Today, he was on a mission, to reconnect with his estranged son, Ethan. The enticing aroma of barbecues wafted through the streets, and laughter echoed from the annual summer fair, a stark contrast to his cold, corner office. As Charlie walked toward Ethan's neighborhood, memories crashed over him like waves. The days spent together, beer cans in hand, watching fireworks light up the sky, felt like a lifetime ago. His son had dropped out of college, chasing dreams of a craft brewery that Charles never truly understood. But here he was, ready to bridge that gap, even if it meant hiding behind a fake persona. The local diner was buzzing with chatter, and Charlie stepped inside. He scanned the room and caught sight of Ethan at the counter, animatedly talking to the waitress. In his work boots and dusty attire, Charles felt out of place yet free. Ethan's laughter was infectious, and for a moment, Charles was just a dad, not the CEO worth millions. As they chatted over greasy burgers and milkshakes, Charlie was captivated by Ethan's passion. He listened intently as his son shared stories of his brewery plans, dreams bursting with hope and ambition that made Charlie's heart swell and ache at the same time. But in the back of Ethan's eyes, Charles saw the flicker of resentment. It was subtle, but there like the smoke from the barbecue grills curling through the air. Deep down, Ethan believed the family wealth had stripped away genuine values. Those thoughts pounded in Charlie's chest like a heavy drum, weighing down their otherwise light interactions. Before they could solidify their bond, news erupted through the diner. Old man Harris, the beloved local veteran, was facing eviction. The diner fell silent as folks exchanged worried glances. Ethan's brow furrowed, and Charlie could see the internal struggle play out in real time. Should he stand up for the community that raised him or pour every ounce of energy into his brewing dream? The stakes rose like the summer heat. Charlie felt the town's pulse, the unity that coursed through its veins, yet so much was at risk. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the conversation flowed, Charlie felt nervous energy building. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then blurted out a truth that turned Charlie's world upside down. He knew who Charlie really was. Shock turned to anger, and in that instant, the air thickened with unspoken words. Father and son met each other's eyes, the past swirling around them. Could they ever see eye to eye? Would this fragile connection shatter before it had even begun? The echoes of their conversation lingered as the summer sun began to dip below the horizon, leaving the warmth of the day hanging in the air. Charles realized that the facade he built had both protected and imprisoned him. What truly defined success? And in the grand tapestry of life, could family ties endure the strain of ambition and misunderstanding? The truth revealed in that moment sent shockwaves through both their souls, leaving a profound question dangling in the evening light. Was this the beginning of something beautiful or the end of all they once had? The tension between Charlie and Ethan thickened, almost palpable in the diner. The hum of conversation faded, leaving their private storm echoing in the silence. Charlie's heart raced, a mix of fear and an odd sense of liberation. He had come here to understand his son, to mend what had been broken. But the revelation hung like a dark cloud overhead, threatening to pour down everything they had barely begun to rebuild. Ethan's face shifted from surprise to a simmering frustration. You were just playing a game, weren't you? Hiding who you really are to see if I'm worthy of your support. Does it still matter to you what I want? Ethan, Charlie started, the lump in his throat growing larger. It's not like that at all. I wanted to see you, to understand you without the interference of everything else. But you still don't get it. Ethan's voice rose, drawing the attention of nearby diners. You're trying to fit me into some box, like I'm a project to fix. I dropped out to follow my dreams, and your money doesn't mean anything if I can't stand on my own 2 feet. The anger radiating from Ethan seemed to shake Charlie to his core. The walls he had built around himself, meant to shield his wealth from the world and protect his heart, had begun to crumble. He wanted to yell back, to insist that he believed in his son, that he was proud of him. But instead, he felt a deep need to sit with this moment, a father confronting the realization that he had failed to see his son as a man, as an individual with dreams distinctly his own. I remember the nights we spent planning your future, Charlie said, his voice trembling. I never meant to push you away. I didn't understand. Ethan shrugged, a flicker of pain crossing his face. Understanding isn't enough when all I see is your empire. I need to stand on my own, Dad. Every time I think I've made something of myself, I'm reminded of you and your expectations. The words punctured through Charlie's heart, sharp and unforgiving. He thought of all the business deals, all the years spent chasing after success, and how it had come at the cost of knowing Ethan. For a moment, he felt lost, like a ship adrift without a compass. But then, the gears in his mind started turning. Maybe there was still a chance. Tell me what you need, Ethan. Not what I think you need, but you. What can I do to help? Ethan looked skeptical, his brows knitting together, but a flicker of hope sparked behind his eyes. I just want to be respected for my choices. To make my own mistakes without you hovering over me. Charlie nodded, feeling the weight of his son's words settle in. What kind of father had he been all these years? One who cared too much about control and too little about connection. Then I promise you, I'll back off. Seriously? Ethan seemed taken aback, searching his father's face for any hint of deception. Absolutely. I want to understand what you're building. This brewery, it matters, doesn't it? A silence fell between them, the air charged with unspoken understanding and another chance. Charlie realized that this was more than just saving their relationship. It was about transforming it into something real, something that neither wealth nor pride could tear apart. Just as Ethan opened his mouth to respond, a commotion erupted outside, drawing their attention toward the diner's window. A small crowd had gathered, faces painted with concern. Charlie's stomach sank as a voice rang out, "It's old man Harris." Without thinking, Charlie instinctively stood. What is going on? Ethan followed closely behind, eyes wide with urgency. We need to go see. The father and son stepped outside, the warmth of the summer evening meeting them like a comforting embrace as the realization melded into a single note: they had both been brought to this moment for a reason. Would they rise together to confront the issue threatening their community? As they reached the crowd, Charlie caught sight of something just beyond the horizon, a spark of unity flickering against the darkening sky. Everything was changing, and together, they could be part of that change. Let us do this together, Charlie urged, glancing at Ethan. For the town, for us. But even as they joined the thrumming heart of Maplewood, a new uncertainty loomed. Would confronting the community's struggle help heal their family wounds, or would the weight of unhealed resentments pull them apart again? The answer was just beyond reach, waiting for the moment when they would need it most. As Charlie and Ethan pushed through the gathering crowd, they could hear fragments of conversation mingling with anxious whispers. "He collapsed, someone call an ambulance." Surged through the crowd like a wave. The steady thrum of concern reminded Charlie of how interconnected their lives were, each thread woven into the fabric of Maplewood. "Old man Harris, he's a fixture around here," Charlie murmured, forcing his body to move despite the heaviness in his heart. "He's always there to lend a hand," and now Ethan's eyes darted across the crowd, searching for any signs of reassurance. "Do you think he's all right?" Charlie felt a knot form in his stomach. For years, he had been so focused on his own pursuits that he scarcely considered the lives of the people in this town, people like Old Man Harris, who had done so much for the community. As they edged closer, the sight of the elderly man sprawled on the ground, surrounded by worried faces, struck him like a punch to the gut. "He needs us," Charlie said, glancing at Ethan, whose expression had shifted from apprehension to determination. Perhaps now was the moment they could truly forge a bond, not just as father and son, but as fellow neighbors reaching out to support their community. "I can help him," Ethan said, his voice rising above the murmur of the crowd. With a quick nod from Charlie, they weaved their way through the gathered bodies and reached the front. As they reached Old Man Harris, Charlie could see the concern etched on his son's face. The old man lay there, looking frail, with sweat glistening on his forehead and his breathing shallow. "Is anyone a doctor?" A voice called out from the back, cutting through the chaos. "I used to help at the clinic during summers," Ethan said, inching closer to the man. He kneeled down and checked for a pulse, the feel of the old man's surprisingly weak heartbeat sending a shiver through him. "He just needs some air and help." Charlie felt a swell of pride mixed with something deeper. This was the son he wanted to support. "Ethan, I'm right here," he said, kneeling next to him. "What do you need me to do?" "Just stay close. He needs us both right now." As they worked together, Charlie watched his son transform. The boy who had once viewed his father as a towering figure of expectation now appeared resolute, grounded in compassion. It was a revelation, a turning point in their relationship stirred by a shared sense of purpose. Moments felt like hours as they provided comfort to Old Man Harris, or at least did their best. Ethan spoke softly, reassuring him, while Charlie fanned away the rising dread among bystanders. There was something electric in the air, a sense that they were stepping into their roles as pillars of strength, together. Eventually, the sound of sirens shattered the taut silence, and Charlie felt a wave of relief crash over him. They had acted, made a meaningful difference, even if just for a moment. As the paramedics arrived and took control, Ethan finally looked up at Charlie, searching for something in his gaze. "I didn't know you could rely on me," Ethan admitted, his voice barely above a whisper, a flicker of vulnerability creeping in. Charlie's heart soared, mixed with guilt for all the times he had overlooked his son's capabilities. "I should have seen you long before this." The two men shared an unspoken acknowledgement, the burden of their past dampening, even if just a fraction. Yet, as the paramedics lifted Old Man Harris onto a stretcher, Charlie's gaze drifted to Ethan, who was still wrestling with a jumble of emotions. Would this moment bring them closer, or was it merely a detour on their winding road? As the crowd began to disperse, a moment of silence washed over them. This wasn't just about a medical emergency, it was about humanity, about connection, and about healing. But as Charlie turned to talk to his son, the crowd began to clamor again, louder this time. "Wait! What about the brewery? It could be a part of this." Someone shouted. The question hung palpably in the air. It was a reminder that their journey was anything but over. How would their brewing endeavor fit into this newfound dynamic? Charlie's heart raced as he looked at Ethan, whose face now glowed with renewed fire at the very thought of fighting for his passion. Would this community project be the next step in their reconciliation? That spark of unity could ignite so much more, and both father and son would have to decide how far they were willing to go. Ethan's mind whirled with the sounds of the crowd, the cheers, the chatter, the uncertainty. But one idea anchored him amidst the bustle: the brewery could be their lifeline. "Dad," he started, his voice steadier now, "Old Man Harris has always been about community, right? What if we gave back? We could create something that resonates with everyone." That fire in Ethan's eyes sparked something profound in Charlie. "Are you thinking what I think you are?" Charlie asked, a cautious hope creeping into his chest. The brewery could be a place for locals to gather, to support one another. It could be a tribute to the ties that held Maplewood together. "Yeah, a community brew house, something that celebrates who we are," Ethan replied. But uncertainty bubbled beneath the surface. "It will need more than just our enthusiasm." We'll need support, and Charlie paused, the weight of their connection hanging heavy. She's been saying we need to rethink our approach. The way the town feels about the brewery right now. Ethan's shoulders tightened. Are you saying we should give up, just because it's tough? No, no. Just, think it through. You know how people are. The fear of failing loomed large, tainting his words. Yeah, and they have a right to be heard. This is more than about profit or business. It's about us, about Maplewood. Ethan's intensity surged. It was as if he was no longer a boy, but a man ignited by purpose. Finally, Charlie nodded. Then let us do it. Let us talk to the community. Let us see if we can make this dream something real. They both turned, eyes scanning the faces in the crowd, some relaying concern, others glimmers of excitement. This was the first step, a bridge they could build together. Loud laughter drew their attention. A group of people nearby were discussing how Old Man Harris used to tell stories while sipping his favorite brew. He would tell us about the town's history over a pint. One voice chimed in, prompting others to join in with memories of the old man's larger-than-life tales. There's a connection here, Ethan observed, his curiosity piqued. Yeah, every time he brewed a batch, he shared stories that brought us together, Charlie agreed, feeling the warmth of nostalgia wrap around them. The old stories were more than words, they were memories of laughter, friendship, and resilience. Suddenly, Ethan's expression shifted, as if a light had flickered in his mind. What if we asked the townsfolk to share their stories? A part of each brew could echo their lives, their dreams. A community collection, if you will. Charlie's heart raced at the idea. That could change everything, make the brewery a living memory. Exactly. We could showcase other local talents too, maybe artwork, music. This could be a place to unite us, honor those like Old Man Harris. The prospect hung in the air like the golden light of a setting sun. For Charlie, it was daunting yet exhilarating. Would they truly build something that honored the town and its people, and in doing so, honor their bond, too? Just as excitement bubbled between them, Ethan's phone buzzed, and his face dropped. It's Rena, he said, voice fading. Charlie watched as Ethan turned away, his happiness dulled by the impending conversation. The thought of Rena possibly dissuading them made Charlie's heart sink. Hey! Charlie called out, whatever she says, don't let it shake you. Remember, we're in this together. Ethan nodded, but there was uncertainty in his eyes. What if Rena's words cut through their newfound union? Dad, Ethan began slowly, what happens if she doesn't see the vision? The question hung heavy between them. Would their dreams slip away in the balance of one person's opinion? As Ethan took a deep breath and answered the call, Charlie felt his own heart beat faster, blending hope and dread. They had ignited something, but would it hold against the storms to come? And in that uncertain moment, the crowd felt both like a safety net and a sea of possibilities. But as the sirens faded and Old Man Harris was loaded into the ambulance, there was a lingering question. Would they truly honor the lives woven into Maplewood, or would their journey force them apart once more? Ethan felt the weight of his father's hand squeeze his shoulder, grounding him as he lifted the phone to his ear. He tried to steady the rush of emotions inside, but the uncertainty churned like a storm. Rena's voice came through the receiver, sharp and probing, cutting through the air like a knife. Ethan, I heard the news about Harris. Are you sure this community brewhouse is the right move? He opened his mouth to reply, but words caught in his throat as Charlie stepped closer, watching with intensity. Rena, this is more than just a business idea. It's about bringing the town together. It's our chance to honor Old Man Harris's legacy, Ethan finally managed, his voice gaining strength. Legacy or not, what if it backfires? The townsfolk are still uneasy about the brewery. All I'm saying is, let us not jump into this blindly. A wave of frustration surged through him. We won't jump blindly. I promise we'll connect with everyone, hear their stories, but Rena interrupted. Stories don't pay bills, Ethan. You need to think wisely. Look, you know how I care, I just don't want you to fail. The call ended abruptly, leaving a heavy silence in the air. Ethan hung up, feeling 3 layers of disappointment, for himself, for his father, and for the town. Charlie placed a hand on his back. Hey, it's okay. We'll make this work. Together. What if she's right? Ethan said, his brow furrowed. What if we overreach? Maybe it is too soon. Charlie's voice was firm. But what if we succeed? We've got to believe in them, the people of Maplewood. They need this just as much as we do. Hope flickered anew as Ethan considered his father's words. The laughter he had heard moments before seemed to echo in his mind, a reminder that sitting in darkness didn't mean the light was gone. Let us not waste time, he said decisively, a plan forming. We need to set up a town meeting. Make it a celebration. Let everyone bring their stories, their dreams. If we can show them how much this matters, they'll come around. Sounds like a plan, Charlie agreed, his excitement mirrored in Ethan's growing smile. With renewed determination, they moved away from the crowd and found a quiet corner under a sprawling oak tree, roots deep and strong, just like the community they were trying to revive. How do we even begin to get the word out? Ethan wondered, scrunching his brow. Social media, local flyers, word of mouth. If we can rally everyone together for Harris's sake, it'll spread like wildfire. Let them know it's not just about us, it's about all of Maplewood. The thought ignited a fire in Ethan. And we can set up a banner that reads "Memories Brewed Here." That'll grab attention. You're onto something, Charlie said, admiration shining in his eyes. It's the spirit of our town. As they brainstormed, a few familiar faces approached. It was Clara and David, 2 friends from their school days. Clara held a camera, her enthusiasm palpable. Hey, we heard what is going on. Can we help? Maybe film the stories as people share them. Ethan exchanged glances with Charlie, excitement bubbling. Absolutely. This could become something huge. Let's set up a town gathering by the park next Saturday. Clara beamed, snapping photos as the ideas unfolded. As the group rallied together, Ethan felt the echoes of the town fill him with hope. Each voice, each story they could capture, would weave into the fabric of their new venture. But as the excitement blossomed, Ethan's thoughts trailed back to Rena's words. What if they couldn't meet the expectations? What if some stories revealed truths they weren't ready to face? With those questions lingering, Ethan's mind raced. He glanced at Charlie, who was deeply engaged in conversation with David and Clara. The families of Maplewood were counting on them, and he wouldn't let them down. Yet, in the air of possibility hung an unanswered question: would the stories that brought them together also tear apart the threads of old wounds? As they prepped for the gathering, a sense of urgency stirred. Time was ticking, and their battle was just beginning. What would those stories reveal? And could visions of the future truly mend the past? Ethan stood beneath the ancient oak, heart racing with a swirl of emotions. The plan was forming, but shadows of doubt darted just out of reach. He turned to Charlie, who was busy sketching ideas for the banner. What if nobody shows up? Charlie looked up, brushing his hair back. They will, Ethan. If we show them how much this matters, they'll feel it just like we do. The sun began to set, casting a warm hue over the park. It felt like a promise, but the fear still loomed. They were stirring something deeper than just memories, they were walking into the hidden truths of Maplewood. As the gathering date approached, the energy in town began to shift. Clara had made flyers that were plastered everywhere: coffee shops, mailboxes, church doors. Each stop she took felt like a heartbeat for the town. David was busy spreading the word on social media, wading through online chatter. Ethan watched the excitement build, a mix of hope and terror bubbling inside him. What if the stories unspooled rather than tightened the bonds of the community? He couldn't shake the feeling that they might unearth secrets some would rather keep buried. The day of the gathering arrived with a buzz that crackled in the air. Families poured into the park, children laughing, dogs barking, all swirling around the massive oak that had stood witness to both sorrow and joy over the years. Ethan stood at the entrance, taking it all in. A feeling of togetherness spread like warm sunlight. He looked at Charlie, who was adjusting the banner they'd made. "Memories brewed here." It read, bold and inviting. "Looks perfect." Clara cheered, snapping photos, each click capturing a slice of history in the making. An hour later, laughter rang through the park as people shared memories, converging in circles around makeshift tables. Some carried dishes filled with family recipes, others held mugs full of coffee or tea brewed community spirit. Then Clara stepped onto a small makeshift stage. "Welcome everyone. Today is special, not just because we're sharing a brew of stories, but because we're reigniting our bonds as a community." The crowd hushed, eyes drawn to her genuine excitement. "Let us hear from you all. What memories do we treasure about Old Man Harris? Who wants to start?" Ethan's heart raced. He exchanged quick glances with Charlie, who nodded, encouraging. An older gentleman stepped forward, his brow lined with age, voice shaky yet strong. "Harris was the one who taught me about brewing coffee. It was more than just a cup, it was a connection, a reason to gather." As he spoke, Ethan felt the crowd lean in, hanging on the words, yet doubt flickered at the edges of his certainty. What if this opened up wounds? More stories flowed. Warmth wrapped around Ethan like a blanket, but with each tale, the unease crept closer. He spotted Rena standing near the back of the crowd, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Could she sense it too? Was she right to worry? Just then, a woman's voice pierced through his thoughts. "But what happens when the stories hurt?" The crowd grew silent. Ethan's breath caught. There it was, the question that had shadowed his every thought. How do we honor the past but also face it? She continued, her eyes darting around. Hesitation filled the air like fog. Ethan stepped forward, a sudden clarity enveloping him. "We face it together," he said, voice steady. "We don't need to bear these memories alone. Together, we can navigate what's left unsaid." A murmur rippled through the crowd, some nodding, but others wore doubt on their faces. He glanced back at Rena, who looked thoughtful. "What if this becomes a way for our town to heal?" he thought. "What if it's not just about honored legacies but forging new paths together?" As the nervous energy simmered, the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that mirrored the weight of untold stories lingering beneath the surface. Could this gathering be the turning point for Maplewood to confront its past? And as laughter melded with tension in the air, a realization crystallized: this was only the beginning. What silent truths would emerge as the evening wore on? And would the community, united in heart, be ready to confront them? Ethan scanned the crowd, sensing the mix of excitement and apprehension pulsate like a living entity. The sun hung low, casting long shadows, bathing everything in amber light. His heart raced, but it wasn't just the anticipation of stories being shared. It was the gravity of what was yet to unfold. Clara took a deep breath, sensing the rising tension. "Let us keep the stories flowing." She clapped her hands, breaking the uneasy silence. "Who's next?" Another voice rose, a middle-aged woman, her hands clasped tightly as if holding onto something fragile. "I remember when Old Man Harris would sit on his porch, offering free coffee to anyone who stopped by." Her voice wavered at first but gained strength as she continued. "He had a way of making you feel seen, like your story mattered. We could talk for hours." Nods echoed around as more faces lit up with recognition. Ethan felt warmth spread through the gathering. These stories, once just thoughts in his mind, were coming to life, connecting everyone in ways they'd almost forgotten. Yet, the unease remained. Just then, David stepped forward, eyes glistening. "But what about the wrongs? Harris may have brewed connections, but some of us are still haunted by the past things he may not have known. The weight of his words hung like thick smoke in the air. Ethan's skin prickled. Was this the moment when vulnerability would tip into something darker? He glanced at Rena again, her face shadowed by uncertainty. Would this gathering invite the truth or fracture the delicate fabric of their community? Silence enveloped the park. A thick anticipation swallowed every breath. People shifted uneasily, some exchanging nervous glances. Ethan felt the tension stretch tight, like a bowstring ready to snap. Then, a voice spoke from the edge, a soft yet fierce tone. "We can't ignore the hurt, David." It was Rena. "Harris showed us kindness, but he had his flaws. We must acknowledge those too." Her eyes, usually filled with fire, sparkled with a hint of fear as she continued. "No community is perfect. Hiding our pain won't make it disappear." Ethan's heart tightened at her honesty. This was the moment he'd feared, the unearthing of discontent simmering beneath layers of politeness and nostalgia. Still, he couldn't help but admire Rena's courage. Her words ignited a spark among the crowd. One by one, more people stepped forward, sharing experiences that turned smiles into frowns. "I never got a chance to express my anger when he moved away," a younger voice broke in. "I felt abandoned. Like my history didn't matter to him. What if we used this day to heal those wounds?" Another voice called. "Can we find a way to forgive rather than just remember?" Ethan's pulse quickened. This was what he had hoped for, yet fears clouded his thoughts. Would acknowledging these feelings only deepen the rift? Or was it a step toward something greater? Clara raised her hands. Let this flow. The good and the bad. It's all part of us. We're all Maplewood. Ethan looked around at the friendly faces. Here was a chance to cultivate something beautiful from the rawness they were revealing. Go deeper, he thought. They could be the town that embraced its scars. As the stories got bolder, lines between past and future blurred. Yet, Ethan could still feel the heavier truths lurking, barely concealed beneath laughter. The more they voiced, the more questions emerged. What if, amidst these shared tales, something disruptive rose to the surface? Would they be ready to face whatever winds of change came next? He took a deep breath, steeling himself as Clara steered the conversation. What strength can we find to work through this together? She asked, her voice steady but inviting. As the crowd began to contemplate the question, Ethan took a step back. Could unity flourish from this chaos? But then, he noticed Rena's expression morph into confusion. She opened her mouth, and he felt a ripple of dread. What was she about to uncover? Could this moment turn the tide for Maplewood or lead to irreparable fractures? The sun dipped lower, painting the park a deep, foreboding red, mirroring the turmoil brewing in hearts. And as the murmurs of the crowd swelled into a wave of emotions, Ethan braced himself. What truths lay just beyond their grasp, waiting to be unveiled? Would they break or mend as one? Rena hesitated, her voice trembling slightly in the cooling breeze. The crowd quieted, all eyes on her as if she held the key to unspoken words lurking in the depths of their shared past. Ethan could see the conflict stirring. A part of her wanted to speak, to unearth feelings long buried, but another part seemed to plead for restraint. I need to share something, she finally said, her gaze flicking around the circle. We can't just remember the good. The truth is, not everyone felt seen by Harris. There were whispers behind closed doors that not all his kindness was genuine or evolved. People like my brother, he struggled with addiction. Harris walked by him every day without a glance, turning his head as if ignoring his pain. It still aches to think of it. Gasps rippled through the audience, surprise and discomfort painting their features. The warmth Ethan had felt moments before began to dissipate, replaced by an electrifying tension. He could talk to some and offer them coffee, Rena continued, her voice gaining momentum. But what about those he overlooked, those of us who didn't fit his idea of community. My brother deserved to be acknowledged, and yet, he faded into the shadows. Ethan felt as if someone had plunged a hand into his chest, squeezing tightly. The very foundation of their nostalgia felt endangered, cracking under the weight of this revelation. Clara stepped closer to Rena, the empathy radiating from her almost palpable. "You're brave to share that. We need to know the whole story, Rena. Those missed connections can hurt deeply. We owe it to ourselves to face that pain." Encouraged, others began to chime in. Voices rose in a chorus of truth. One after another, they spoke of their own experiences, revealing wounds hidden beneath layers of gravel-strewn smiles. "My family never really fit in," said a man with a shaky voice. "Harris was well liked, but he never invited us to join him. It was as if we weren't worthy." The more they delved into stories marked by rejection, the deeper the wounds seemed to cut. Yes, memories of warmth and kindness radiated from some tales, but a shadowy undercurrent revealed the complex reality of their shared history. Laughter turned into shared sighs of regret. Ethan's heart raced. He thought they were only unearthing scars, but they were peeling back greater layers, exposing deep-rooted flaws in their idyllic perceptions. What would this mean for their unity? David, still standing at the edge, stepped forward again. "We can't dismiss this. We have to face what it means to move forward. We can't just pretend it's all okay." More murmurs arose, a mix of agreement and uncertainty, as folks began to reconsider their own stories. Deep fears rose to the surface, igniting an array of emotions. This wasn't just a gathering anymore, it was an awakening. They were standing on the precipice of transformation. Ethan's stomach knotted. He felt compelled to lead them, to bring them back to a place of community. This is the moment we need to learn from those overlooked stories. Maybe we can honor those memories by creating a space where everyone feels seen. But his voice felt small against the rising tide of emotions. What if they couldn't bridge this gap? What if this moment tore Maplewood apart instead of bringing it together? Rena looked upset but hopeful, and that cut deepest of all. "Maybe we can start small. A community circle dedicated to listening, to ensure that no one feels invisible again." Ethan's heart swelled with a mix of hope and dread. Could this really be the first step toward healing? Just as he thought about how to frame the next step, a sudden shout echoed from the park's edge. "Look out!" All heads turned toward the source as a figure stumbled into view, wide-eyed, panic-stricken. What was happening now? Was this moment of vulnerability about to get interrupted by something unexpected? Ethan's heart thudded in his chest. What was coming next might change everything they just began to confront. The figure staggered into the circle, breathless and wild-eyed. It was a woman, her clothes disheveled, and her hair a tangled mess, as if she'd just escaped a storm. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of air that heightened the atmosphere of unease. "Help! Someone please!" she cried, her voice cracking, laced with panic. Ethan stepped forward instinctively, hoping his calm presence would ease her distress. "What happened? Are you okay?" She looked at him, her eyes darting around, finding none of the familiar faces. "There's a man he's hurt." The words tumbled out in a rush. "We need to get to him before it's too late." Ethan's heart raced. Thoughts of starting a new community initiative faded into the background. This was not just about hurt feelings anymore, this was real and urgent. "Where is he?" "Just down the path. In the woods. I think he fell." She clutched her chest, taking deep, shaky breaths. "He's alone and scared. Please." Before she could say more, David was already on the move, galvanizing others to follow suit. "Everyone, stay together. Don't let anyone wander off. We need to help." Ethan took a deep breath, steeling himself against the rising tide of chaos. He felt a sense of responsibility. He wasn't just a bystander, he had to take the lead. "I'll go with you," he said to the woman, urgency spilling from his voice. We'll bring him back. They sprinted down the winding path, the crowd slowly dispersing behind them with murmurs of concern. As they reached the tree lean, the sounds of the gathering faded, replaced by the rustle of leaves and the distant call of a bird. "Do you know who he is?" Ethan asked, hoping to distract her from the overwhelming worry. I think he is a friend," she stammered. "I saw him just a few hours ago. He was in a good mood, joking around." Then her voice trailed off as they pushed deeper into the woods, urgency pulsing in the air. Ethan's mind raced. Was this sudden urgency a fickle twist of fate? Or was it a chance to shift their current path, to dive deeper into the heart of their community's fears? They were about to unearth something more than lost connections. "We need to hurry," he said, quickening his pace. Every step felt heavier, weighted by the knowledge of what lay ahead. Rounding a bend, they stumbled upon a clearing. A man lay sprawled on the ground, clearly in distress, one leg twisted at an awkward angle. He groaned softly, clutching his side. Oh no, the woman gasped, rushing toward him, panic flooding her voice. "David, get the others. We need help." Ethan knelt beside her, assessing the man's condition. "Stay calm," he said, trying to sound reassuring. "What happened?" As she hovered over him, her face twisted in desperation, Ethan's own emotions surged. This was not just a physical injury. This was a plea for connection, a call for help that echoed their group's recent unraveling. Faintly, the man whispered, "I didn't mean to scare anyone. I just wanted a moment alone." Ethan's heart sank. It wasn't just a plea for physical assistance, it was a revelation of isolation in a place masked by warmth. Could this be the turning point? As David hurried back with more people, Ethan sensed a shift not only in the injured man but in the very air around them. The community was being called to draw closer, to come together in this moment of vulnerability. Just as help arrived, a thought gnawed at Ethan's mind. Was this man merely hurt, or was he somehow linked to the stories they had just started to unravel? The group began to gather around, faces tense with concern. But in that charged moment, Ethan realized they weren't just approaching the brink of healing, they were also standing at the edge of discovery. What did this moment, bathed in chaos and urgency, mean for their journey together? As he met the eyes of the injured man, a flicker of recognition sparked. What if they had more in common than met the eye? What if this unexpected episode served as a catalyst, changing everything they thought they knew about each other? As the crowd gathered around them, Ethan felt a surge of determination course through his veins. The group instinctively formed a protective circle, their eyes filled with a mix of concern and curiosity. He turned back to the injured man, recognizing him now, the whisper of a connection igniting memories of laughter and sharing, echoing the warmth of community they all yearned for in that park. "Hold on," Ethan said firmly, kneeling closer to him, trying to soothe the rising panic. "Help is here. We're going to take care of you." The man's gaze flickered with gratitude and pain. "I didn't mean to cause trouble, I just needed a break from everything." His voice was shaky, revealing a hidden struggle amid the surface calm of Maplewood. Ethan's heart sank. That familiar ache returned. This was what they had begun to piece together in their stories, the feeling of being unseen, forgotten amidst the bustling life of a small town. This man was a living testament to the fact that beneath the laughter lay untold stories waiting to be heard. Just then, Clara rushed in with David, breathless yet resolute. "We're here. What do we need?" she asked, her eyes scanning the scene, quickly assessing the situation. "We need to keep him calm and still," Ethan directed. "He might have injured his leg badly." "We should radio for an ambulance and I can help too," shouted a young voice from the back. It was Jake, an eager teenager who had wandered close from the gathering. "My mom's in nursing school, I can do some first aid." "Great. Join us." Ethan welcomed him with a nod, appreciating the support. The crowd's unease began to fade slightly as they rallied for a shared purpose. What had started as a moment of chaos turned into a palpable collective energy, pulling everyone closer together. This is it, Ethan thought, his heart swelling. This was the essence of what he wanted the brewery to stand for, a space where people could come together, heal, and truly see each other. Can you tell us your name? Clara gently prodded the injured man, her voice soothing. It's Ryan, he managed, drawing in a labored breath. I was just feeling overwhelmed, the pressure of everything exploded today. I thought if I just went for a walk I'd feel better. This is about more than a physical injury, Ethan realized. Ryan's moment of vulnerability could become the heart of their community's transformation. I know things often feel heavy, Ethan admitted, his voice steady. But we're all in this together. You're not alone anymore. Before long, sirens neared, cutting through the layers of fear and despair that lingered. The sight of flashing lights brought a sense of urgency mixed with safety. They weren't just gatherers of stories, they were people willing to lend a hand, make connections, and embrace vulnerability, a real embodiment of the community spirit. As the paramedics arrived, the crowd stepped aside, their concern morphing into hope. Each person bore witness to the power of unity against life's uncertainties. And even amidst the chaos, Ethan could see those around him draw strength, hearts softened by silent agreements to support one another. Ryan was gently loaded onto a stretcher, but even as he departed, Ethan felt a sense of promise bloom. He could hear murmurs rising from the crowd, echoed affirmations of coming together during tough times. Let us stay connected, Ethan called out to the crowd, newfound passion igniting his voice. There's beauty in vulnerability, and we can nurture that. Let us share not just our triumphs but our struggles like Ryan's. This is about creating a safe haven for every story, every scar, every person who feels lost. Hands began to clap, a reverberating rhythm of agreement, a meeting of hearts acknowledging the importance of stepping forward, acknowledging their truths, and standing together. As the last lights of the sun dipped below the horizon, paving the way for a cool evening, Charlie stood beside Ethan, the bond between them now tinged with something deeper. The unspoken tension transforming into a mutual understanding that they could mend their family ties together. You did well, Charlie said quietly, pride shimmering in his eyes. Ethan felt his chest swell. We did this together. As Ryan was whisked away, Ethan noticed Rena stepping forward, a new light flickering in her eyes. Ethan, she began, a new level of respect weaving through her words, maybe we could build something new from these stories, something that honors us all, so no one is left alone. Elation rushed through Ethan. This gathered momentum wasn't just a fleeting moment, it was the mark of new beginnings, a fresh page in their narrative. The work ahead loomed large, yet his heart thrummed with possibility. That evening had brought truths, connection, and the promise of a community breathing life into their history. Absolutely, we're ready for this challenge, Ethan said, his voice filled with determination. We'll face each revelation together, each truth that may sting, but healing has begun. As the crowd began disbanding, exchanging contacts and plans for future gatherings, a warm breeze rustled through the trees, whispering of hope and shared stories yet to be told. Ethan felt the fabric of Maplewood tightening, stitches of compassion, understanding, and bravery weaving a blanket that would hold them closer than ever before. Let us craft those stories, Charlie reminded him as they gathered up what was left of the day's remnants. Together, we can brew something extraordinary. And it was in that moment, standing under the ancient oak, that Ethan felt an undeniable shift. This was the beginning of change, a chance to uplift one another, to honor not just the past, but the future they could build together. As they drifted homeward, hearts aligned with determination, Ethan scanned the faces of those around him, smiling at the flicker of unity that danced in their eyes. The community was awake, and so were they. Together, they'd forge ahead, hand in hand, crafting a tapestry of love through the stories that bind them all. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to follow this journey and not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this transformative ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us spread hope and connection to everyone we know.